Good evening, everyone. My name is Suryansh Kapoor, and this week's talk will be in recognition of the World Youth Skills Day, which was established by the United Nations in 2014. Today, we will be dealing with the modern landscape of employability, what it means to impart skills to our youth, and how these two domains have evolved over the years. To preface this talk, I would first like to introduce you all to some terms that I will be using throughout. First of these is NEET rates or NEET rates, which refers to youth not in employment, education or training, and is the official expanded term for those who are unemployed and not seeking employment. SDGs, as you may already know, refer to the 17 Sustainable Development Goals that are a part of the United Nations 2030 agenda and have a deep role in governing policy around skilling youth and enhancing employability. Most nations that are part of the UN, including India, are made to follow these guidelines to an extent. Now, for a long time, education has been the primary mode of skilling children so that they can gain employment in the future. The creation of this concept of the modern day school came about after the Industrial Revolution to give young people the knowledge and training in sciences and languages so they could join the factory workforce after their schooling. Historically, the longer a student stayed in school, the higher chances they had of finding work and earning money. But today, while young people are staying longer in school than ever before, the gap between what is taught and what the modern workplace demands has widened tremendously. According to benchmarks by the ILO or the International Labour Organization, 48% of the global youth population aged 15 to 24 is engaged in some kind of formal education or training. Despite this historical high baseline enrollment, UNESCO and SDG Metrics 4.4.1 tracks a staggering 40% mismatch between current youth skill sets and actual job market needs. In the Indian context, the most sought after skills in the workplace are communication, teamwork, adaptability, technical and AI proficiency, and emotional intelligence. And in all of these aspects, the youth of India are failing to meet more than intermediate standards at most. The reason for this kind of a mismatch is twofold. First, the stagnant nature of education, and second, the ever-evolving nature of the work market. Schools and colleges use the same textbooks and material that were taught about 100 years ago, with little tweaks every other year or so, while the modern work market is going through an undeniable technological disruption. Because of this, employers are slowly moving away from hiring based solely on academic pedigree and instead value capability and proof of skill over something like an engineering or a management degree. When we look at the latest research in national indices like the Indian Skills Report 2026 and the NIIT India Skill Gap Analysis from this year, the picture looks even more solemn. These reports suggest that there is a major shortage in India in AI and generative AI roles, along with a very high demand in data analytics, cloud computing and cybersecurity. Moving down the list, we see product management, user interface and user experience roles, and ESG compliance in corporate. Now, these roles are high paying, high in demand, but require specific skills that are in very short supply. Moving on to the SDG mission. The SDG mission focuses on these issues through two primary routes that I shall now cover quickly. SDG 4 focuses on quality education, while SDG 8 deals with decent work and economic growth. Specifically, SDG Target 4.3 aims to ensure access to vocational and higher education, while Target 4.4 mandates increasing the number of youth who have the relevant technical skills for employment, decent work and entrepreneurship. SDG Target 4.6 specifically focuses on universal youth literacy, and Target 4.7 mandates that learners should acquire knowledge and skills that are human-centric and sustainable. SDG Target 8.6 refers to reducing the NEET rates globally and is the primary metric when it comes to ascertaining whether the youth are being left behind in the school to work transition. Finally, SDG Target 8.b deals with creating a global jobs pact with the ILO that aims to provide employment to all the youth of the world. Now, if you listening at home were to go through all of these in detail yourself, you would find them to be very admirable and of noble causes. But in actuality, these goals and targets are very vague and almost impossible to achieve in the next 3.5 years. The Sustainable Development Goals, since their inception back in 2015, have resulted in very little progress in the specific domains that they have targeted. In fact, much of the progress that has been made in unsustainable ways that continue to strain our planet further. For example, there are currently 11,500 AI data centers in the world, with more being funded and built every single day. Now, these facilities require large quantities of drinking water just to cool down the chips. And there is evidence of toxic heavy metals in the runoff water that goes into our rivers and the soil. The SDG mission and the 2030 agenda at large thus becomes quite irrelevant when it comes to creating the right kind of change in the right sustainable way. India has almost a 50% youth population, making us the largest tech-savvy youth force in the world. But a large chunk of the youth is prevented from realizing their true potential. We are taught since our childhood that studying hard and working hard in school and college will result in us having a good life. That is a narrative that almost every school-going kid in India has heard. But reality is quite different. According to the NIIT Skill Gap Analysis, 43% of our Indian youth still believe that a college degree is their best route to gainful employment. But as I mentioned earlier, only 21% of employers prioritize these degrees, valuing experience and industry certifications instead. The Indian government knows this and has invested heavily in educating and upskilling our youth, allocating nearly 1.5 lakh crore of taxpayer rupees towards this endeavor. It has also launched many initiatives like the NAPS, or the National Apprenticeship Promotion Scheme, and AICTE's research internships from the All India Council for Technical Education. Now, where these initiatives are a good first step in skilling our youth, they unfortunately focus in the wrong direction. The NAPS primarily deals with vocational training, and the AICTE gives access to their internships to only a small number of people each year. There are also many other issues regarding corruption and circular management that result in the low effectiveness of these organizations to perform their main functions. Even in these government organizations, the board is often composed primarily of businessmen and upper management from the private sector. Now, this is one of the main reasons behind the lack of proper skilling infrastructure and initiatives that work in India. Recently, we keep hearing about how the private sector has provided employment to millions of people in India in the last few years, and where that would be a good thing, that is only because millions of Indian youth work 10 to 12 hours every day for platform and quick commerce companies, delivering food and groceries and driving taxis. As of this moment, there are more than 1.5 crore active platform workers in India, with over 70% of them being under the age of 30. That means more than 1 crore of our youth are at the seat of a bike or in autos, working for an algorithm and earning less than the minimum wage of an unskilled laborer. The NEET rate in India has been 27% this year, which is 7% higher than the global average. Looking at these figures, it makes sense how these platform and quick commerce companies benefit from the increasing skill gap among the youth. These apps offer a low barrier to entry and carry minimal liabilities regarding their employees. In fact, most of these companies don't even call their workers their employees, preferring terms like delivery partner or independent contractor. Ever since the pandemic, the concentration of these food delivery and taxi apps on our phones and their drivers on the road have increased astronomically, and so have the net worths of these companies and their board of directors. What it actually means to impart important employable skills is shifting the focus of education from simply transmission of academic knowledge, which is teaching someone what a concept is, to applied capability, which is how they can use that concept to solve real-world problems. Technical knowledge or hard skills affect our job success to a degree of only about 15% of the time, and the rest 85% of success comes via soft skills and people skills. And we can't really expect our students to learn these soft skills by reading about them in textbooks, hearing about them in lectures or talks like this, or by rote memorization of syllabus. True skill transmission requires interactive learning systems. Even something like replacing repetitive exams that students forget about after writing them with project-based learning, for example, like creation of real-life models or digital portfolios, prototypes, and even discussing real-life case studies in depth, can help make an interactive learning environment. Internships should exist not for getting work done by a student for free or for cheap, but for moving the youth into live work environments and helping them learn these dynamics by experiencing them. Ultimately, creating a skilled youth requires our education system to not just create an academic graduate with a degree, but to create a functional asset who is fit to contribute meaningfully to an organization and towards society at large. If we as a nation truly care about our future, we can no longer afford to look the other way. We must take it upon ourselves to skill, empower and uplift our young people. For too long, we have treated education as just a passive assembly line and waiting for top-down government intervention to solve the crisis. But when those systems fail to impart the essential real-world skills that our youth desperately need, the responsibility falls squarely on us. We must rid ourselves of complacency. We must be unapologetic and adamant in demanding widespread, systemic change in how we educate and train the next generation. Look at the horizon. India stands at a historic crossroads right now. We hold the immense potential to be a leading world power in the next decade. But potential is not a guarantee. It is a perishable resource and very often an empty dream. That glorious future will only materialize if we undergo a profound cultural shift. We must reject the short-sighted corporate greed that has proliferated through our society, a mindset that views our country's youth merely as cheap, disposable labor to be exploited for immediate profit. True national strength is built by investing in people, not just bottom lines. We must pivot away from taking advantage of our youth and move toward genuinely empowering them. We must build an ecosystem where talent is nurtured and where every young mind is given the tools to innovate and lead. The future of India is not written in its balance sheets. It is written in the capability of its hands and the brilliance of its minds. We must rise, demand better, and forge a stronger, truly skilled nation together. Thank you very much.